So, when I met my guru, I was fed up with gurus. As I explained, I didn't want to have anything to do with gurus. I wanted to be free from all gurus. And I can say, 30 years, I met my guru in 1986, 32 years later, that the day I met my guru was the most important day of my life. It remains the most important day of my life. It's the day that changed absolutely everything forever. So speaking only from my own personal experience, meeting a truly realized master, when we are sincere in our aspirations for liberation and for moksha, is the most important possible thing that could ever happen to us. And I mean, I don't know how to say it, it's just that my life has changed forever simply because I met this most extraordinary man. My guru told me a story about an extraordinary experience he had. And I'll just tell you what he told me. I have no judgment. I don't know how to understand what he said. I'll just tell you what he said. He said he was having a very deep meditation one day. And he suddenly saw life forms that he could not recognize from his own human experience. And these life forms were so strange looking that they terrified him. And then one life form would appear, and then another life form would appear, and another life form would appear. And he couldn't recognize any of them because they looked so strange. And he said he recognized that they were all him, but this was on some other planet in the universe. And he said this experience went on for a long time, and another life form would appear and disappear, and another life form that he couldn't recognize or understand another. And this went on and on for a long time. And then he said the same experience happened on another planet, and another one, and another one. He had many wild experiences, and this was only one of thousands that he told. And he said eventually, in this vision, he was on planet Earth, and he could recognize the life forms until the life forms became human beings, and he realized he was every one of them, leading up to his last birth, his prior birth, because he'd had a very clear realization and recognition of who he'd been in his last birth. And this whole panoramic journey of one incarnation leading to another incarnation, leading to another incarnation, leading to another incarnation, led to finally this incarnation, this life. And then he went through the entire story of this life, leading up to the moment he met his guru, which was the great Ramana Maharshi. And the minute the picture of Ramana appeared, the movie stopped. And that was the end of the story. So, my own experience, in my own not so dramatic way, has been identical. Because meeting the true master, a true master, someone who has the capacity to awaken us, is the most important and extraordinary thing that could ever happen to us. Now, there's a traditional Vedantic story about meeting the Guru, which is that some human beings are very ripe and ready, some human beings are not so ripe, and some human beings are not ripe at all. So what they say is that the enlightened master is like a raging fire, and sitting in front of the raging fire, if a piece of wood is very, very dry, it will burst into flames. And if the wood is damp, it will take time to dry out before it catches fire. And if the wood is very wet, it will take a long time to dry out before it's ready to catch fire. So, if we have a powerfully awakened spiritual master who has the capacity to enlighten us, simply sitting in their presence won't automatically necessarily fully enlighten us. But being in the presence of an enlightened master, of a truly enlightened master, the real thing is like sitting near a portal to the infinite, a direct portal to infinity. So after I met my guru and I realized who he really was, and this took me some time because I was full of doubts, But after I had the experience that I had with him, I no longer saw him as merely a human being in a human form with a human personality and a human history, but I saw him as a living portal to the infinite. And I knew that's who he really was. He appeared to be merely a human being, but I knew directly from my own experience of sitting in his presence and of trusting him who he really was. So I know there's a lot of controversy these days about the value of gurus and about the fact that we all need to grow up because we've outgrown the guru system. So I also think there are many problems in the the ancient traditional guru system, because one of the problems is that in the old ancient traditional way of understanding how this works, the guru is seen as being the cosmic parent, and the disciples are seen as being the children. And whereas this is understandable for a certain period of time, this sets up a dialectic in the relationship that can often keep the disciples in a relationship with their students that can keep people from actually evolving. So this is part of a much bigger, more complex story. So where I personally feel that meeting a spiritual master that has the capacity to enlighten us, if we're a true seeker, if we're ready for enlightenment, is probably the most important fortuitous event that could ever happen in our lives. And at the same time, the guru system as a cultural structure, I have no doubt needs to evolve. It needs to develop in very important ways. And this is part of a much longer discussion.